I was recently given the task to come up with some chair yoga resources for an older couple who wants to start doing yoga at home, and they heard that chair yoga was a great way to get started. And of course, there's a lot out there. It can help to have a recommendation from somebody that you trust. So I was definitely up for the task. A little bit of background is that I teach a chair yoga class now every Thursday morning. So I've incorporated using a chair in one of my 6 a.m. morning movement and meditation classes on Zoom. I used to just have one video, which I'll link, you can see it here or in the description, that was just a resource for those who wanted to use a chair in my morning class. I gave them just a little 15-minute video to be able to get the basics. But now I incorporate a chair into every Thursday's class. So at least once a week, we're doing it in a chair. And it's been so fun to learn a little bit more, to find resources, to find social media sites and accounts and books and resources and all the things for chair yoga. And I am not technically certified in chair yoga, but I am a certified yoga teacher. And once you have the credentials of yoga teacher, really doing these specialized things, it's up to you if you want to take a course or a certification, or if you want to educate yourself. For me, I went the path of self-education. I like to read books, take my own courses, take my own classes, and build my own style and incorporate the tips that I learned along the way. So I actually have 6 books here that I'm going to review and give you some insight into why you might want this chair yoga book or another chair yoga book. And the reason I'm doing book reviews is because books are a very inexpensive way to have a ton of information. You would probably pay 3, 4, 5 times more if you took a course versus what you could find in a $15 book. So I went on this journey of looking for resources. The first thing I did is I went into my Facebook group, Yoga Sequencing and Teaching Tips. It's a group now of over 80,000 yoga teachers and practitioners. And I know that chair yoga is one of the top topics talked about. And so I went up to the search bar and I typed in chair yoga book. And I wanted to see what people most recommended. And I got about 2 or 3 of the books came from looking through the comments, seeing what people recommend. So I made sure those were on my list. And then I went to Amazon, looked for those books specifically, and then I looked for reviews and how long a book had been on the shelf or available, and looking for reviews and just anything else that caught my eye that I might want as a good mix of books to get to be a resource for chair yoga. And some of these are resources for me as a teacher, but some I wanted to look through and see what I would recommend for somebody just getting started. That's going to be 2 very different audiences. How to adapt a class if you're teaching, or how to start a yoga practice. Very different. So let's get into those books. Shall we? I'll make sure to leave all the links to the books in the description. So the first set of books, actually I have 2 here. If you are a yoga teacher and you want to incorporate props and a chair into your multi-level classes. So let's say you're looking for chair yoga resources for that 1 or 2 people in your class that need a chair. They need accessibility because you're teaching to all levels. For that, I have 2 books. This one was highly recommended, Accessible Yoga by Jivana Heyman. And he also has a great Instagram page, so you can check it out, Accessible Yoga. And inside, can we get there? Yeah, it's very textbook-like. So very textbooks-like, black and white photos. You can see here lots of different props they're using, explanations. It's formatted nicely, very professional. And this book has a lot of really great explanations and ideas to modify poses and modify the practice. That might mean intensify or feel something different or using props. So accessible yoga for really making yoga accessible to anyone that shows up in your classes. So this is more textbooks like. I would recommend this for teachers who are looking to teach better. Now, of course, if you're a student, you might want this as well. It's not a very beginner, but if you're someone who's been doing yoga a while and you're interested now in maybe helping with an injury that you have or assisting with some conditions you're going through, this is a great book. So Everyone should have this one. This is a newer book as well. So put it in your Amazon cart. And then another one that was just recommended to me, I think yesterday, I bought it and it showed up overnight, was Diane Bondy's book, Yoga Where You Are. So this is not yoga for beginners, it's yoga where you are. So there was a comment like, but these poses are not beginner poses. So this book is not yoga for beginners, it's yoga where you are. And these ladies are here. You might be somewhere else. So this is another very great resource. This one has color images, very professional photos, well formatted, and yeah, really great stuff. I mean, it even has some advanced postures in here as well, some arm balances. Designing your practice, there's some sequences, there's some speaking of language. So this is for teachers as well. Yoga Where You Are, Diane Bondy and Kat Hegberg. Hegberg? Sorry. There you go. So those are like multi-level, you're using a chair as a prop, that kind of thing. Now we're getting to actual chair yoga. So what about books for just a chair class? And that's it. So I've got 4 other books that I want to share with you that are really just using the chair as a prop to design an entire class. I'll share the one that I like the best first. So this was the one also recommended in my Facebook group. So whenever people were asking about chair yoga, there was this book. Christina De Arrigo, Chair Yoga Accessible Sequences to Build Strength, Flexibility, and Inner Calm. This is going to be my top recommendation for somebody getting started with chair yoga at home. So this is one I really liked. The reason being is the pictures are wonderful, number one, but one thing that I really like is that she has sequences in here. So here's a 10-minute sequence for at a glance. 10 minutes for whatever it was for. They have 10 and 20 minute sequences. So it explains them first, explains each of the poses, how to do it, what's it for, giving you any tips and advice. And then in each chapter, there are sequences at a glance. So you have the full string of sequences, and it gives you a couple more tips on how to do it, how long to hold the poses. And so this is a really great manual to set out in front of you and just to look through. I think it also comes in a spiral bound copy if you want to get it spiral bound so it can lay flat, which would be awesome. So I love this book. This was so far my favorite. This might be yours as well. And this has enough for a beginner to understand, but not too much that's going to overwhelm them. And then for teachers who are looking to add a chair yoga practice to your classes, or maybe a chair segment inside of your classes, this is great. It's so simple, easy formatted. I like that there's different colors in the pages, so it sections them by color. So one is like yoga for energy, one is yoga for sleep, one is yoga to unwind. And I'm all about formatting and design and making things easy to use and visually appealing. Speaking of visually appealing, the next book I have to show you, I love the content. I do not like the delivery, but this was another book, the third book that was recommended in my Facebook group. All I need is this chair yoga. So it's yoga sequences and yoga poses with just using a chair. So there's no other props in here. However, it's a little bit difficult on the eyes, and you can tell that it's self-published, but I really like the content. The content is great. They use Comic Sans as the font. I mean, that's okay. It's not terrible. It's large font, so it's easy to read. And the pictures are a little bit tough to see sometimes, but she does have pretty good form. So that's wonderful. What I like about this one, it sections the book into seated poses, standing in front of the chair poses, standing behind the chair poses. So it breaks it up that way. Okay, so it breaks it up by where you're placed on the chair, using the chair for balance or standing behind it, in front of it, to the side of it. It's a little tough to read. There's a lot of like hand drawings There's places for notes. And then in the back of it, there are some sequences. So we've got some sequences for doing tree pose, sequences for doing, let's change it up here, sequences for standing balance pigeon, sequences for just random things. So you'll see some small sequences. So there's not a ton of information on modifying a class for the chair. It's really just sharing chair practices and some poses and ideas with enough information, not too much. So it's, again, a very simple book. Great information in it. It's not overwhelming. The design leaves a little to be desired, but I still think this is a pretty good book. I liked all the ideas that it had for behind a chair, in front of a chair, and that kind of thing. So decent, questionable, it's up to you. And I've got two more to show you. I'll show you the one that I got most recently and why I would recommend it. The next one is Chair Yoga by Kristen McGee. I think I just saw this one on Amazon and I liked the way the cover photo looked. And it looked a little bit more professional, so I wanted to test out this book. It had good Amazon reviews. And this book, I would say this one was written more for people who work at a desk. So if you're sitting a lot all day, less for a older population or specific conditions, and more so for people who sit a lot. I like this book a lot because it's broken up from sections like body parts. So she even does a section on like face. So you're looking side to side. There's some poses that are like, like face yoga type stuff, along with different versions and different things you could do for your neck, your wrists, even having, what was it? It was like there was this little wrist exercise thing here. 4-part exercise that I enjoyed learning a couple little tips in here that you could incorporate into non-chair classes too. So this one I think would be really great for people who work at a desk or who sit a lot. So if you work with a population who drive for long distances, who sit on a plane, who do anything sitting long durations of time, I like this book for that. So again, it can be for any population, but specifically if you are working with office workers, people who are seated, it breaks it up really nicely. And then it gives you 5 and 10 minute sequences. 10 minutes to less stress. The photos are black and white, but she's got really good form. And so it's easy to see what she's doing and how she's doing it. So that's at the back of it. And then in the middle, it has variations. I like that she shows some variations here, or getting into it, variations. So she's got some modifications for certain poses. So like this one is roll down, so you're seeing from the top to the bottom. And so multiple pictures is helpful, so you can see a variety of ways. So I like that she gives a variety of options with even just hand on the chair versus not on the chair. So you've got some options there. This is actually, I think, my second favorite of all of them. But I mean, I shouldn't pick favorites. They're good for just different reasons. So I liked this one a lot. It's easy on the eyes, easy to read. The text is a little bit smaller. So anytime that the text is smaller and it's more like a textbook, I would say that's more of a teacher's guide. So this is more teacher teaching guide. Whereas if you get into the books that have larger fonts, bigger print, that's more so for the people who are the next book, who the people who maybe are an older population, harder to see. So Chair Yoga for Seniors. Now this one was not recommended at all, but I saw it on Amazon and I thought, I'm gonna grab that one too, why not? It says the only chair yoga for seniors program you'll ever need. And so I'll tell you about this one too. So this is the last one I'm going to share with you. I don't even know the author. Does it have an author? The New You presents Chair Yoga for Seniors. When I first went to it, I like how big the text is and it's very easy to see. The thing I don't like is the visuals. The visuals don't give options or modifications, and some of them are even wrong. So let me share with you what I mean by that. Like this, for instance, deep twist. This is not a deep twist. This is a side bend. But what it says in the instructions is to do a side bend first and then go into the twist. So it's not actually showing you the pose itself. It's showing you the warm up to it. This is saying pigeon pose, right? That's not a pigeon pose. Pigeon would be ankle over the knee. It's showing you the warm up, to warm up by doing circles. And then in the instructions, it says place the ankle over the knee and lean forward. So the visuals aren't great in all of the poses. They're okay, but make sure that you read through the poses. Now, at first I thought, as I'm looking through it, mostly sequences are in the back of the book. So I'm like looking at the back, like, where are their sequences? It's just a bunch of poses. But they actually have them in the very beginning. They have these little introductory program or a beginner program, but it doesn't really say how long to hold them. It doesn't give you any modifications or variations. It doesn't really say much about them. It gives you just the page number that each of these things are on and expects you to look it up and no variations. So even look here. This is supposed to be Warrior 2. And there's a lot of variety with Warrior 2. You can place one leg out and look like she was on an angle. So if you were just trying to follow along with the pictures, not so great. But it's easy on the eyes. It's designed nicely. It gives you a good general base. It doesn't give you too much. This is one that I would say I could or would recommend for someone who's practiced yoga in the past or who has some familiarity with the poses, has taken a couple of chair classes, and maybe they just want to do it at home or have a quick little resource. So this one, I think of my bunch of books I got, least favorite one, but still okay. Every single book, every teacher, every person, everything has information that can be helpful. So let's just run through those again. So I told you all about the books that I bought. Hopefully that was helpful. I know this is kind of a long video, but we've got the multi-level classes for accessibility for teachers, very helpful. Yoga Where You Are and Accessible Yoga. For chair yoga, the two that I really liked, my two favorites of chair yoga only for the chair, is Kristen McGee and Christina D'Arrigo. These ones, right? And then the other two that were okay, that you might consider if I said anything or you saw anything you liked in them, all I need is this chair yoga and Chair Yoga for Seniors. Those are the 6 books that I purchased recently to make my Zoom classes more accessible, to test out and review some books. So some of these I'm going to recommend for the older couple who wants to do yoga at home, and some of these I will recommend to the teachers that I train and I work with every single day. So links are going to be in the description. You can check those out at any time. And if you have a book that you would recommend for chair yoga, I'd love to hear it. If you have a different one, you can post it or let me know in a comment. I'm always looking to enhance my library and learn a little bit more. I still have to go through these more in depth, but this was just a quick overview of some books that you could potentially add to your own yoga teaching or yoga practice library. So I hope that was helpful. Don't forget to connect with me, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will see you next time for more yoga teaching tips and technology in business.